Okay, so let's get into it. We're talking about someone who basically changed American music forever.
And he did it in, what, like a 12-year window? It's kind of unbelievable.
Totally. We are talking about John Coltrane, born September 23, 1926.
What's so wild about Coltrane is his constant searching. You
Yeah.
know, he would reach the absolute peak of his abilities.
And then just tear it all down.
Exactly. And start over looking for something deeper, something more spiritual, right up until he died at only 40.
That constant evolution is what makes him so fascinating. So we're going to track that journey from this kid dealing with a ton of loss to becoming a technical wizard and then something else entirely.
Yeah, spiritual icon.
And to really get the man, you have to start at the beginning. He was born in Hamlet, North Carolina.
Right, into a family that was really steeped in music and faith. His grandfathers were both ministers, and his dad played a few instruments.
So he had this really stable spiritual foundation.
Mm-hmm.
But then it just gets shattered. And this is, it's just a heartbreaking part of his story. When he was only 12, his father and both of his grandfathers all died within a few months of each other.
It's almost impossible to imagine the impact of that. I mean, for a kid that age, it seems like that experience forged the discipline he was famous for later.
How so?
Well, it's like music became the one thing he could control, the one structure that made sense when everything else had fallen apart.
And he turned to it almost right away. He picked up the alto horn, then the clarinet.
And eventually landed on the alto sax as a teenager.
Then in 1943, the family moves to Philadelphia.
Which was a great move for him. It put him right in the middle of this huge active jazz scene. It was a game changer.
And in Philly, he really buckled down. He wasn't just playing by ear, he got formal training.
Yeah, at the Ornstein School of Music and Granoff Studios, he was learning music theory, you know, the nuts and bolts behind the magic.
He was always a student first.
Always, even in the military. He served in the Navy during World War II, stationed out in Hawaii.
And he played in a band there?
Called the Melody Masters. Just kept his skills sharp.
So after the war, he goes back to Philly and starts playing professionally. But in rhythm and blues bands, that seems a little off-brand for the Coltrane we think of.
Oh, but it was so important.
Why?
Because those R&B gigs were in loud clubs for big crowds. It taught him how to project, how to develop this massive, powerful sound that could just cut through everything.
Yeah, that's where he gets that huge tone.
That's it. And around 1947, he makes the switch to the tenor saxophone.
The instrument that made him a legend.
So all that groundwork is done. He has the theory, he has the skills, he has the power. Now he just needs a stage.
And boy, did he get one. 1955. He gets the call to join the Miles Davis Quintet.
I mean, that's like going from playing local clubs straight to the Super Bowl.
Right. Suddenly he's on major record labels, playing for huge audiences.
And almost immediately, he starts developing this totally new style. It was so dense and fast that critics had to come up with a name for it. They called it sheets of sound.
Okay, let's break that down for everyone because playing fast doesn't really cover it.
No, it's not just speed, it's density. See, most soloists play a melody over the chords. Coltrane was playing the melody and all the notes inside the chords all at the same time at lightning speed.
So it's like a waterfall of notes, but every single drop is musically perfect.
A perfect description. A wall of sound that was harmonically precise. But then, just as he masters that complexity, he pivots completely.
To Kinda Blue, 1959, one of the most famous albums ever made.
And the birth of something called modal jazz.
So if Sheets of Sound was about cramming in as much musical information as possible, modal jazz is the opposite.
Exactly the opposite. Think of it this way. Sheets of sound is like trying to speed read an entire encyclopedia. Modal jazz is like staring at a single beautiful painting for an hour and just exploring every single detail.
So instead of a ton of fast chord changes, you just stay on one scale or mode for a long time.
Right, and that gives the musicians like him and Miles so much more freedom. They can create these long flowing solos like on the track, So What?
What's wild about that album is how it was made.
Oh yeah, the whole thing was recorded in just 2 sessions.
And it was mostly first takes.
Right.
No rehearsals. They just went in and created a masterpiece. Music students are still trying to figure out his solos on that record.
But he doesn't stay there. That same year, 1959, he records his own album, Giant Steps.
And if Kinda Blue was about freedom and space, Giant Steps was.
The ultimate test of technical control. It was his absolute peak as a technician.
The title track, Giant Steps, is legendarily difficult to play.
It's the final exam for any jazz musician. The chord changes are incredibly complex and they fly by at an impossible speed. They're actually called Coltrane changes now.
And the fact that he could play over them so perfectly, that just comes from thousands of hours in a practice room.
That's all it is. But it wasn't just an exercise for him. This was his first album as a real leader, not just Miles' sax player.
And he put very personal things in there, too. He named a song Naima after his wife.
Exactly. The technique was always in service of emotion.
So, okay. He's achieved, technical perfection. What's next?
He builds the perfect band to explore his new ideas. In 1960, he forms the Classic Quartet.
McCoy Tyner on piano, Jimmy Garrison on bass, and Elvin Jones on drums.
And the chemistry between them was just electric.
Yeah.
You had McCoy Tyner's powerful piano, Garrison's solid bass, but the engine was Elvin Jones on drums.
It wasn't just keeping a beat.
No way. He was playing with polyrhythms, like multiple rhythms layered on top of each other. It created this swirling, intense ocean of sound for Coltrane to soar over.
They were famous for playing these super long, intense sets.
Oh, yeah. They were a single unit. And during this time, Coltrane adds a new instrument to his arsenal,
The soprano saxophone.
which has a much higher, almost sharper sound than the tenor sax, and he uses it to score his biggest popular hit.
Which, weirdly enough, was My Favorite Things from The Sound of Music.
Can you imagine? He takes this sweet little show tune and turns it into this long, hypnotic, meditative jazz.
It was a huge hit.
Yeah, huge hit. And it gave him financial freedom. He didn't have to worry about selling records anymore. He could now follow his muse wherever it took him.
And where it took him was inward.
Deeply inward. In 1964, he records A Love Supreme.
This is more than an album. It's a statement.
It's a 4-part prayer set to music. The parts are called Acknowledgement, Resolution, Pursuance, and Psalm. It was his way of giving thanks to a higher power for his spiritual awakening.
It feels like everything came together here. His grandfather's church, the loss he suffered, the years of discipline.
It all culminates in this album. And get this, in the final part, Psalm. He's not just improvising. He wrote a poem.
Okay.
And he is literally playing the words of the poem on his saxophone. The rhythm, the phrasing, it's all there.
He's literally speaking through his horn.
He is. And that's his final big shift. Music is now a tool for healing, for prayer. But even then, he couldn't stand still.
He pushed even further, into free jazz.
Yeah. And if Giant Steps was about perfect structure, free jazz was about abandoning structure entirely.
To a lot of people, it just sounded like noise.
Yeah.
Loud, angry noise.
It could be very jarring, yeah. It wasn't about traditional harmony or rhythm anymore. It was about raw, pure, unfiltered emotion. Collective improvisation.
Why go there? Why alienate the audience that loved My Favorite Things?
Because he felt music had to reflect the truth of the universe, and the universe isn't always pretty and organized. It's chaotic and powerful. He was searching for a universal sound. He was an artist who had to follow the truth wherever it led.
Which is so interesting because as a person, he was the total opposite of that chaotic sound.
Oh, totally. He was known for being incredibly quiet, very humble, very serious.
Spent all his free time practicing or reading about philosophy and science.
The discipline was legendary. People say he carried his saxophone everywhere just so he could practice for a few minutes between sets or during a break.
So what's the legacy of this guy? I mean, his impact is felt way outside of jazz.
Oh, absolutely. Rock guitarists in the 60s heard his long, high-energy solos and tried to copy that feeling. Modern composers still use his Coltrane changes.
He really proved that an instrumental musician could be as expressive and as famous as any singer.
For sure. And even after he died so young in 1967, his presence is still felt. He won a special Pulitzer Prize. There's even a church in San Francisco that uses his music in its services.
So his journey from this deep loss to intense discipline to finally this spiritual search, it really shows that mastering your craft isn't the final goal.
Right. It's just the tool you need to be able to express your deepest truth. He teaches us that the search is the most important part.
So the thought to leave you with is this. John Coltrane got to the top of the mountain with albums like Giant Steps. He had huge commercial success, and he still felt he needed to tear it all down to find a deeper truth. It makes you wonder, what comfortable thing in your own life might be holding you back from finding something more?
Good luck with your studies.